recognize the Honorable Minister of Finance.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I would first like to thank all of the members of this Honorable House for their kind responses, and I say kind and supportive responses to the budget presentation. But before I go into the budget presentation, Madam Speaker, I'd like to just make a couple adjustments to the development fund and the total allocation. However, we will formalize this in committee stage, but I thought it important. For the ODG, the BIOT program, an increase of $97.5 thousand, and this represents a recently approved amount for equipment for the prison subsequent to the estimates being sorted and sent to the Legislative Assembly. For built on the airport upgrading, an additional $279,000, my apologies. And again, this is for the airport control tower, and these funds were approved subsequent to the estimates being sent to the Legislative Assembly, thereby increasing votes 12 from 6.2 million to 6.3 million, vote 35 from 35.4 million to 35.7 million, to bring the overall development fund revised amount to $136.3 million, and it gives a revised overall budget figure of $312.2 million. Having said that, Madam Speaker, I just wish to very briefly, and the emphasis on briefly, but cogently respond to some of the questions and comments which were made. Favorable though they might have been, some of them require explanation. The Honorable Lewis asked a question about why the increase in the emoluments, benefits, and allowances line. On the previous administration's TC funds were always ring-fenced. We're bringing those into the budget for transparency so that it becomes part of the budget, so that persons who apply for those jobs, be they month's ration or otherwise, are paid from these funds rather than having to go back to get permission. So that explains that one, I hope. So that covers emoluments, benefits, and allowances. So that's the rationale behind that. It has nothing to do with salary increases. Government workers seeking permission for extracurricular work. It is not seeking permission. It is a matter of informing so that if there's any conflict, that the conflicts are understood by the senior officers first. So it doesn't stop anyone from going to do extra work. But with the person to whom you're reporting should at least know where you're doing the extra work in case there's a conflict which could arise. Okay? So that's the very simple explanation. The other element is one in relation to this building. Madam Speaker, all of us walking into this building cannot say that we are proud of what we see here. The tiles are lifting up. There are problems in the main arena, the bar areas in shutters, the windows, the air conditioning system, name it. We have to focus on getting this cultural center up to a quality that we can all be proud of. Additionally, the promise which we have made among our colleagues is that the Parliament building, the funds which were allocated were insufficient for a proper Parliament building. And if you're building or constructing a Parliament building, it is something that we should all be proud of. The funds were insufficient. And rather than losing the funds or building something less appropriate, we have reallocated those funds, and the Parliament building will then move up to the number one priority in discussions in next year's budget allocation. Okay, so I hope that answers that part of the question. The loan facility for small businesses, I think it is very important for persons to have some skin in the game. And I'm not speaking about any single person, because somebody accused me of going into the yard, see something, and talk about it. This is a very general comment. When we give things away, two things happen. One, people believe you only give to those to whom support you politically. Secondly, because it is free, even if I don't want it, I come and look for the grant. The soft loan scheme is a combination of grant and loan so that people have, as what we call it, skin in the game. But they will not need to go through the process of writing business cases, going through very complex issues in order to get a loan. This is a simple loan facility. So if a fisherman, for example, wants to buy a boat or wants to buy an engine, they walk into the institution, make the application, have the discussion with the loans officer, and can walk away with a loan immediately. It simply means that that individual now becomes someone who, rather than not having a bank account, will put something away in a bank account so that they now start to see themselves running truly a business. It is important that we wean ourselves away from gimme, 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 to that help me to help myself. Good? There are small business persons who have come to me already to say, when are you going to start the scheme? Because I want to buy a fridge, I want to buy a stove, etc. Because they themselves are saying they have applied many times under the grant program, and some persons have benefited 2 and 3 times, but they have not benefited and they're still waiting. So they much prefer a very simple loan scheme. Additional to that would be training programs in very simple bookkeeping and monitoring by an officer who will visit them, see how their business is going, and help them along. They don't have to mortgage their house for the loan. If you buy a fridge, the security is the fridge. If you buy a stove, the security is the stove, etc., etc. Very, very simple program. As it relates to whether or not it's the repayments that will keep this scheme going, I'm sorry if you misunderstood that. It means that every year this government will put in additional funds to keep the scheme going, be it $500,000 a year or an additional $1 million a year to keep the scheme going. Micro enterprise development. And let's work together on getting that done. The issue as it relates to banking and the ease of money transfers, we're working on that. We're having discussions with the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. We're having discussions with other institutions who will facilitate us being able to move money. It may seem as though Montserrat is special, but this is not a Montserrat case. This is something that has been foisted on us by the OECD and the G7. They may not be doing the same things that they're asking us to do, but because they're bigger than us and they can control what we do or what we don't do, we have to follow their rules. FATF, you understand FATF. You understand all the other anti-money laundering things. They don't money launder, but we money launder. So for example, a bank in the United Kingdom, or I transfer money from a bank in the United Kingdom to Montserrat, coming from a bank, I really do not see why we now have to ask you where that money came from. It is the responsibility of that bank in the United Kingdom to do that due diligence. But we're asked to do it on their behalf. And if we don't do it, we're punished. But we're working on it. So I think I've pretty much covered what Honorable Lewis wanted me to respond to. But just so that we understand how we're going forward, I very informally, over drinks, after the previous session, agreed with the Honorable Leader of the Opposition that we will at least once per month have a sit down with the opposition to discuss any issues, hear what you have to bring to the table, and let us work together as one Montserrat. We don't have to wait until we come here to be asking questions. Yes, we know that we do that sometimes so that we're talking to our constituents. But you can get the information, you can make your suggestions, and I implore you, use that opportunity so that we can work together. Let's share views. We are one people with one cause, the One Montserrat Project. The Honorable Romeo mentioned agriculture and that 1 million which is being loaned to the agricultural sector is not enough. But I suspect he was not listening or he did not read the budget speech. 1 million is being given directly to the Ministry of Agriculture and 1 million used for soft loans. Just want to make it clear. We cannot, at this stage in our life, be just taking money and saying, here, take it. We also want to establish the discipline that even farmers and fisherfolk understand the need to borrow money to grow their business. And this deals with other businesses, okay? So the 1 million, which will be strictly for agriculture, there's another 1 million strictly for micro-enterprise. The development fund to which the Honorable Romeo spoke, if I can remember, that was pre-2014, am I correct? No, you mentioned that we had a development fund and you hope that we can replenish those funds and get it going. That's what I heard. So let me respond to it this way. Yes, there was, in fact, a development fund which was being created for small businesses. This was supposed to be operational through the MDC. And I say no more. As it relates to housing, I know that the honorable member has a passion that we must fix all the houses in Montserrat because there are many, many houses that need fixing. There are many, many houses that need to be built. The Chinese have a saying, every long journey starts with the first step. Honorable Osborne and his team are starting that first step, that within the next few months, they will be rolling out that program to start building houses. Secondly, of the almost $1 million, they will be using that not to rebuild, but to upgrade some houses to make them affordable for persons who need housing solutions, whether it be in Salem or anywhere between Salem and St. John's. That brings some of these dilapidated housing or abandoned houses back into operation, where there will be a sharing between the property owner and government of Montserrat until the monies spent on fixing the houses are being repaid from the rent. Madam Speaker, while we're on housing, and given the passion that the Honorable Romeo has on houses, like houses in Davy Hill, I'm asking him at the conclusion of this session to walk with me or drive with me into Davy Hill to look at a house that has been under construction for the past 20 years. The gentleman is now 80 years old. This gentleman has been working on that house diligently, but cannot install his windows, simply because those windows were paid for over 20 years ago and still have not been delivered. So I would like for him to walk with me so we can have that discussion. I'm not saying where the windows were bought from. I'm just saying it was bought from a local establishment. The port project and transparency, Madam Speaker, just like in any case before the court, one cannot bring to the public information during the negotiation stages. The Honorable Hector Dorset has indicated once we have concluded those negotiations, that information will be made public. And additionally, if government is putting money, additional funds, into that port project, we're obliged to come back to the Legislative Assembly and make it known and approved in the Legislative Assembly. Geothermal wells were drilled and tested sometime in 2014. 2014, Madam Speaker. But yet we're hearing, oh, this is what you need to do now. Some of us were in government after 2014 through 2019. Did they not have those answers and could figure out how to do it? But all of a sudden, this is what you need to do. They have the answers. He has the solutions. Madam Speaker, talk is cheap. But one of the things which I'd like for us to take away from here is that we as members of the Legislative Assembly, and based on the responses I've had on both sides of the aisle, sounds as though we're willing to work together, and that's a very good sign. After we finish the walk into Davy Hill, we'll still continue to work together. Madam Speaker, in closing, because we'll go through the estimates and some of the other details which are requested in terms of the money and the movement of money, that will be dealt with in committee stage so that we can go through those with the technicians supporting us. Madam Speaker, while I'm on my feet, if you'll permit me, last night I heard the news of 60-odd persons dying in an accident in the Dominican Republic. And I wish to extend my sincere condolences on behalf of all of us to the people of the Dominican Republic for such a tragedy. Madam Speaker, the Honorable Teresina Bodkin, my schoolmate from primary school, has left us. And I am recommending to this Honorable House, and we can do it again in adjournment, where the recommendation could be solidified, that we have a special sitting of the Legislative Assembly so that we can all express our condolences and our memories individually on the passing of our former Speaker, Teresina Bodkin. So, Madam Speaker, with these few words, I would like to rest, and I commend this bill for its second reading.
Honorable members, the motion before us, which has already been moved and seconded, is for the Appropriation Bill 2025 to be read a second time. Those in favor, say aye. Those against, nay. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The bill will be read a second time.
Appropriation Bill 2025, number 3 of 2025.
At this point, the House will move into committee to consider the bill in more detail. So we will start with the schedule, looking at the development fund votes. Vote 12, Office of the Deputy Governor, in the amount of $6,247,000. Sorry, I recognize the Honorable Financial Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, would like to make an amendment to the schedule. For vote 12, the sum should now be $6,344,900.
Okay, members, the question is that the amount be adjusted to $6,344,900. All those in favor? Those against, nay? The ayes have it. The figure will now be adjusted accordingly. So, if I repeat vote 12, Office of the Deputy Governor, $6,344,900 should form part of the schedule. All those in favor? Those against? Yeah. The ayes have it. The vote 12, Office of the Deputy Governor, $6,344,900 form part of the schedule. Vote 15, Office of the Premier, $833,300. And the question is that that amount should form part of the schedule. All those in favor? Those against? Nay? The ayes have it. Vote 15, Office of the Premier, $833,300 form part of the schedule. Vote 17, Cabinet Secretariat, $1,080,000. Question is that that amount should form part of the schedule. Those in favor, say aye. Those against, nay. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Vote 17, Cabinet Secretariat, in the amount of $1,080,000, now form part of the schedule. Vote 18, Department of Communications and Digital Transformation, $438,400 should form part of the schedule. Those in favor, say aye. Those against, nay. The ayes have it. Vote 18, Department of Communications and Digital Transformation, in the amount of $438,400, now form part of the schedule. Vote 20, Ministry of Finance, in the amount of $35,436,500 should form part of the schedule. Those in favor say aye. Those against, nay. I think the ayes have it. Vote 20, Ministry of Finance, in the amount of $35,436,500 now form part of the schedule. Vote 30, Agriculture. $4,393,800 should form part of the schedule. All those in favor, say aye. Those against, nay. I think the ayes have it. Vote 30, Agriculture, in the amount of $4,393,800 now form part of the schedule. Vote 35, Ministry of Buildings, built. $35,440,300 should form part of the schedule. Those in favor say aye. I'm sorry. Yeah. Recognize the Honorable FS.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, another amendment to vote 35. Okay. The sum should now read $35,719,300.
719.
300.
Okay, so vote 35, built, $35,719,300 should form part of the schedule. Are those in favor, say aye. Those against, nay. The ayes have it. Vote 35, built, in the amount of $35,719,300 now form part of the schedule. Moving on to vote 40, Education, $912,000. The question is that it should form part of the schedule. All those in favor, say aye. Those against, nay. I think the ayes have it. Vote 40, Education, in the amount of $912,000 now form part of the schedule. Vote 45, Health and Social Services, in the amount of $51,119,000 should form part of the schedule. All those in favor, say aye. Those against, nay. I think the ayes have it. Vote 45, Health and Social Services, now form in the amount of $51,119,000 now form part of the schedule.
Chair. Okay. The total development fund vote should be amended to read $136,277,200.
Thank you. So we now move on to the total development fund votes in the amount of $136,277,200 that should form part of the schedule. All those in favor, say aye. Those against, nay. The ayes have it. Total development funds in the amount of $136,277,200 now form part of the schedule. And we move on to the supply votes. We begin with vote 5, Police. $8,494,800 should form part of the schedule. All those in favor, say aye. Those against, nay. I think the ayes have it. Vote 5, Police, in the amount of $8,494,800 form part of the schedule. Vote 7, Legal. $1,829,800 should form part of the schedule. Those in favor say aye. Those against, nay. I think the ayes have it. Vote 7, Legal. $1,829,800 now form part of the schedule. Vote 8, Magistrate Court, $418,800. The question is that this amount now form part of the schedule. All those in favor, say aye. Those against, nay. The ayes have it. Vote 8, Magistrates Court in the amount of $418,800 now form part of the schedule. Vote 9, Supreme Court, $1,434,700 should form part of the schedule. All those in favor, say aye. Those against, nay. I think the ayes have it. Vote 9, Supreme Court in the amount of $1,434,700 now form part of the schedule. Vote 10, Legislature, $1,638,200 should form part of the schedule. All those in favor, say aye. Those against, nay. The ayes have it. Vote 10, Legislature in the amount of $1,638,200 now form part of the schedule. Vote 11, Audit Office, $1,292,400 should form part of the schedule. All those in favor, aye. Those against, nay. I think the ayes have it. Vote 11, Audit Office in the amount of $1,292,400 now form part of the schedule. Vote 12, Office of the Deputy Governor, $38,474,500 should form part of the schedule. Those in favor say aye. Those against, nay. I think the ayes have it. Vote 12, Office of the Deputy Governor in the amount of $38,474,500 now form part of the schedule. Vote 13, Public Prosecution, $787,700. The question is that this amount form part of the schedule. Those in favor say aye. Those against, nay. The ayes have it. Vote 13, Public Prosecution in the amount of $787,700 now form part of the schedule. Vote 14, Financial Intelligence Unit, $935,700. Question is that this amount form part of the schedule. Those in favor, aye. Those against, nay. The ayes have it. Vote 14, Financial Intelligence Unit in the amount of $935,700 now form part of the schedule. Vote 15, Office of the Premier, $382,200. Question is that this amount form part of the schedule. Those in favor say aye. Those against, nay. I think the ayes have it. Vote 15, Office of the Premier in the amount of $11,382,200 now form part of the schedule. Vote 17, Cabinet Secretariat in the amount of $1,040,700 should form part of the schedule. Those in favor, say aye. Those against, nay. I think the ayes have it. Vote 17, Cabinet Secretariat in the amount of $1,040,700 now form part of the schedule. Vote 18, Department of Communications and Digital Transformation, $2,559,200. Question is that it should form part of the schedule. Those in favor say aye. Those against, nay. I think the ayes have it. Vote 18, Department of Communications and Digital Transformation in the amount of $2,559,200 now form part of the schedule. Vote 20, Ministry of Finance and Economic Management, $47,055,600. Question is that this amount should form part of the schedule. Those in favor say aye. Those against, nay. The ayes have it. Vote 20, Ministry of Finance in the amount of $47,055,600 now form part of the schedule. Vote 30, Ministry of Agriculture, Lands, Housing, etc., in the amount of $8,871,900 should form part of the schedule. Those in favor say aye. Those against, nay. The ayes have it. Vote 30, Ministry of Agriculture in the amount of $8,871,900 now form part of the schedule. Vote 35, built. $14,095,600 should form part of the schedule. Those in favor say aye. Those against nay. The ayes have it. Vote 35, built. $14,095,600 now form part of the schedule. Vote 40, Ministry of Education. $10,082,300 should form part of the schedule. Those in favor, aye. Those against, nay. The ayes have it. Vote 40 in the Ministry of Education in the amount of $10,082,300 now form part of the schedule. Vote 45, Ministry of Health and Social Services. $25,489,200 should form part of the schedule. Those in favor say aye. Those against, nay. The ayes have it. Vote 45, Ministry of Health and Social Services, in the amount of $25,489,200 now form part of the schedule. Total supply votes in the amount of $175,883,300 should form part of the schedule. Those in favor say aye. Those against, nay. The ayes have it. The total supply votes in the amount of $175,883,300 now form part of the schedule. And we move on to the summary of the votes. So we had an adjustment. 136. Could you give me a total, please, Honours?
Development Fund votes.
Yes.
136,277,200.
Right.
And
That's the grand total.
the supply votes, 177,883,300.
Right.
Grand total of 312,160,500.
16500.
Yes, please.
No. 312 million.
It's $175,883,300.
For the supply vote.
So for the supply.
So the
vote.
grand
So
total.
the grand total is $312,160,500.
160,000.
160.
Oh, okay. Okay. 500.
Yes, 312,160,500.
Right. So a combination of the development fund votes and the supply votes for a grand total of $312,160,500 should form part of the schedule. All those in favor say aye. Those against, nay. So a grand total of $312,160,500 now form part of the schedule. Okay. And so we move on to the clauses. Clauses 1 to 6. The question is that clause 1 to 6 stand.
Madam Chair.
Excuse me? Yes, sorry. I recognize the Honorable Attorney General.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, as a result of the adjustments made to the development fund votes, some amendments are required to clause 2. I'll start with clause 2 of the bill. The total will now be $312,160,500. So the clause will now read, "There shall be, and there is hereby granted to His Majesty the King for the service of Montserrat for the year ending on 31 March 2026, the sum of $312,160,500 to be issued and applied as authorized in this act." Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Madam Chair. Since I'm on the floor, you had said clauses 1 to 6. So there is also an adjustment required to clause 3, sub 2, to make a similar adjustment in terms of the development fund total, which is now $136,277,200. The clause will now read, the sum of $136,277,200 is authorized to be issued from the development fund and expended as set out in the schedule. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So, the question is that clauses 1 to 6, as amended, form part of the bill. All those in favor, say aye. Those against, nay. I think the ayes have it, the ayes have it. Clauses 1 to 6, as amended, now form part of the bill. Enacting clause and long title. The question is that the enacting clause and long title should stand as part of this bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against, nay. I think the ayes have it, the ayes have it. The enacting clause and long title now stand as part of the bill. And finally, the question is that the bill, as amended, be reported to the Assembly. All those in favor say aye. Those against, nay. The ayes have it. The bill, as amended, will be reported back to the Assembly. And the Assembly will now resume its sitting. I recognize the Honorable Minister of Finance.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm pleased to report to this Honorable House that a bill shortly entitled Appropriation Bill 2025, number 3 of 2025, with the appropriate schedules have successfully passed to the committee stage with a few amendments. And I'll just summarize the amendment in that the total of the supply votes now stands at 175,883,300 for a total of $312,160,500. Madam Speaker, may I request for a suspension of the appropriate standing order to facilitate a third reading of the bill.
I recognize the Honorable Minister.
Madam Speaker, with your permission, I support the motion for the suspension of Standing Order number 53, so that the third reading could take place on this money bill.
It has been moved and seconded that Standing Order number 53 be suspended to facilitate the third reading of the bill. Those in favor, say aye. Those against? The Standing Order number 53 has been duly suspended. Recognize the...
Madam Speaker, I beg to move a motion for the third reading of the Appropriation Bill 2025, number 3 of 2025.
Members, it has been moved that the Appropriation Bill 2025, number 3 of 2025, be read a third time. All those in favor say aye. Those against, nay. The ayes have it. The Appropriation Bill 2025, number 3 of 2025, will be read a third time.
Appropriation Bill 2025, number 3 of 2025.
The Appropriation Bill 2025, number 3 of 2025, has been read a third time and is accordingly passed. Recognize the Honorable Attorney General.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to move a motion for the introduction and first reading of the bill shortly entitled Seventh-day Adventist Church Incorporation Amendment Bill 2025.
Recognize the Honorable Minister of Build.
Madam Speaker, I stand to support the motion for the introduction and first reading of the bill, Seventh-day Adventist Church Incorporation Amendment Bill 2025.
Members, it has been moved and seconded that the Seventh-day Adventist Church Incorporation Amendment Bill 2025 be read a first time. Those in favor say aye. Those against, nay. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The bill will be read a first time.
Seventh-day Adventist Church Incorporation Amendment Bill 2025. Other business, adjournment.
Recognize the Honorable Minister of Finance.
Madam Speaker, there's a small matter which I'd like the Honorable House to have a discussion on, and I crave your indulgence for us to go into committee stage for a brief moment to discuss that.
The House. Recognize the Honorable Minister of Finance.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move a motion for the adjournment of this Honorable House sine die, but I must also report to you, or through you, that coming out of the committee stage discussions, we have agreed to have a special sitting of this esteemed and honorable House on Tuesday the 15th at 10 o'clock for tributes for the Honorable Teresina Bodkin.
Do we have a second for the adjournment? Can we have a seconder for the motion, please? Recognize the Honorable Minister of Build.
Madam Speaker, I stand to support the adjournment of this Honorable House sine die.
Members, it has been moved and seconded that this Honorable House be adjourned sine die. All those in favor say aye. Those against nay. They think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. This Honorable House will now be adjourned sine die.